I think, didn't he say, Andy, well, bring it over to me? And Andy said, I'm not touching that thing. Forget about it. Here's the box. You take it yourself. But I remember that day because he called all of us. We were in St. Louis. Called all of us in our rooms. He thought we were playing a joke on him. He called me. He said, did you steal my toupee? No, but thanks for asking. He called all of us, and then finally Andy got it. Corey, I know you've got another tale for Ron.
Yeah, I would say my favorite Ron Santo hairpiece story was in 2008 when Reed Johnson was acquired. Ronnie loved Reed Johnson's style. He was always impressed with the shirts he was wearing and the way he looked. Ronnie always would mention, I like that. That looks really nice. I should get one of those. So it was right at the All-Star break. We were at home, and Ronnie looked a little different. First time, it was, 2 or 3 days since we last saw each other. So Ronnie not only is sporting this brand new collared shirt, he's got the sleeves rolled up, he's looking sharp. He did some shopping over the All-Star break, but he's got a brand new gamer. And the gamer has some mousse in it, and it also has some spikes. So first time I saw him was inside Lou Pinella's office. That's where we would go to tape the show. And I was like, I cannot wait for Pat to see this. This is gonna be good radio at some point tonight. So sure enough, we get upstairs to the booth, and Ronnie sits down, Pat's preparing his scorebook, and I think I said to Pat, I said, Pat, what do you think of Ron's new look? Oh, Ron, it looks natural. It looks great. And Ron kept saying, this is natural hair, but they just put a little mousse in it, and they spike it, and with my collared shirt, I think I look really sharp. Reed Johnson got, word and wind of this, and he was like, Ronnie, I love your style now. Your style is so much better than it was 5 days ago. But I never will forget that spiked look, and I think it only lasted maybe a month. Because then I think he was getting heat from others, and I think he went back to something he was sporting earlier that season. But that was a good laugh.
I remember that. He said, how does it look? And like Corey said, it was kind of spiked. I said, Ronnie, that looks a little like Rod Stewart. And again, he had that quizzical look on his face. I don't think he knew who Rod Stewart was. And I said, how about Martha Stewart? I do remember that. Judd, do you have any stories about Ronnie's?
I remember, right at the tail end of the pregame, especially if Ronnie wasn't at the game, he would still join us via phone. So it would be Dave Otto and Ronnie and myself. And I remember, I forget where we were. We might have been in Colorado, and I just happened to ask Ronnie, so Ronnie, the Cubs have an off day tomorrow. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to Sheer Elegance. I'm getting some work done on my hairpiece. I said, you're going to come back with a beehive toupee. It's not a toupee, it's a hairpiece. I hate it when you call it that. I said, Ron, if they're any good, I could maybe use some. You would look terrible.
I want to open it up to you now. We've got a lot of stories, and we can share these, but I'd like to get the audience involved in it.
Yeah, we could, the audience.
Is there any particular story that you would like to hear at this point? If not, we'll just tell
maybe one or two.
Yes, ma'am.
Where's the sweater?
The sweater? You mean that quality garment? Well, you know the way it is in Chicago. I live 27 miles away from the ballpark. You can wake up in the morning and it's nice and warm, and you can get downtown near the lake and it's 30 degrees colder. We all know that living in Chicago. So just as a matter of practicality, I would keep a backup sweater in the booth at Wrigley. Not my number one. This would be a well-used garment, just something, to prevent you from freezing to death during the 8th inning of a ball game. So he hated it, and it was a hideous-looking sweater. Ron hated it every time I put it on. Finally, about 5 years ago, after a game, I had already left. He took the sweater and he took it to, of all places, a car wash. I don't know why, but that's where he got rid of the sweater. He just got tired of looking at it. I think he gave it to the guy who dries off your car after the car wash. He said, use it. And the guy said, no, it's not good enough. But we had a lot of fun with that sweater. One day, I also carry an old jacket. These guys have seen the jacket. it's more wrinkles than jacket, really. But again, it's if you're on that airplane where the air conditioning is too high, or the bus that's too high, or a domed stadium that's too cool, you need that little jacket, that little wrap. Ron Santo actually had to wear this horrendous wrinkled jacket one night in Houston. I wish I had taken a picture of it, but he was so embarrassed. But that's how cold he was. He said, "Yeah, give me that thing. I'll wear it." But we had a lot of fun with it. And again, that sweater, by the way, was in this little closet where Matt Boltz worked up behind us. And one winter, some vandal broke in and stole some microphones and some equipment, and they left one thing in that closet. You got it, the sweater. Andy?
I'm remembering, everybody knows, and I guess it's been well chronicled, that Ron had some trouble remembering certain things every once in a while. I mean, I know it can happen to anyone. But we were in Seattle one day. It was 2002. We're sitting on the bus getting ready to go to the game, and Ron forgot his Cubs jacket in his room. So, of course, he tells me, he says, "Would you go up and get," not this politely, of course, but "would you go up and get my jacket from my room? It's room 1213. I said, "All right." So Don Baylor's the manager at that time. He's sitting in the front seat. He's looking at me like, "You better be fast or we're leaving without you." So I go upstairs to room 1213, and I put the little key into the lock, and red light. Thinking, all right, well, maybe I did this wrong, so I did it again. No, red light. I just knew in the back of my mind that this was not the right room. I knew that Ron had seen room 1213 at some point through his travels through the hallway, because that's the only reason he remembered room 1213. So as scary as it sounds, I had to think like Ron Santo. And luckily, the deductive logic came through. I said, it's either room 1212 or room 1214. So I figured he had walked past 1213, so it had to be 1212, right? So I go there, boom, sure enough, 1212, door open, there's his Cub jacket, I take it, I come back down the elevator, and in the meantime, Baylor, he is just seething, and this is not a man you want to mad at you. A little bit bigger than me, yeah. And Ron is giving me all sorts of grief on the bus about how long it took me to come back and get his jacket. So I'm thinking to myself, do I sell him out in front of everybody? Yeah, I guess it's about time to sell him out. If he'd give me the right room number, it would have been a lot faster. Oh, I'd do that. I said, for future reference, Ron, you're in room 1212. Thank you.
You know, I'll say this, one of my favorite Ron Santo stories, and my wife and I would laugh about this to the day, was not even during the regular season, was not on a road trip. It was spring training last March. Ron just turned 70 in February. And so the four of us, my wife and then Ron and Vicki had dinner one night, an off night in Arizona. And as Andy was just talking about, Ron would often on the air talk about his senior moments, right? Constantly. That's another senior moment we all have. So I asked Ron, again, this was just a few weeks after he turned 70, have you had any recent senior moments? And he said, no, everything is fine. And Vicki goes, excuse me? What? You want to tell them about the remote the other night? I said, oh, this I got to hear. What happened with the remote? Well, I was sitting on my couch and I was watching TV and I'm trying to change the channel. It's on 5 and I'm trying to change it to 12 and I'm hitting 1, 2, 1, 2 and it's just not working. I checked the batteries are fine, but it's just not changing. Finally, I'm like, Vicki, the remote's not working. Hang on, Ron, I'll be right there. Well, I really need to see this. You gotta come, I gotta change the channel. I'm hitting 1, 2, and it's just not working. Okay, Ron, I'll be right there. Seconds later, Vicki comes in the room and she says, all right, Ron, what's the problem? Well, look, here's the remote. I'm hitting 1, 2, and it's not working. Vicki takes a long look and says, Ron, that's not the remote. That's your cell phone. So here's Ron Santo trying to change the TV with his cell phone. That was one of my favorite stories.
things come to mind when Ronnie's memory is in play. We were talking, I think it was between innings, Jeff Samardzija was in the game at the time, and there was a story that Jeff Samardzija, just a couple years ago, was supposed to play some winter ball. So I asked Ronnie, did you ever play winter ball? Oh, I hated it. I was down in Mexico, the food was terrible, I was sick all the time. That was the only time I ever did it. We come back on the air, 1-1. Ronnie, I understand that Jeff Samardzija is going to play some winter league ball. Did you ever play? No! I mean, yes! The tail end of the year, Pat loved this story. If Ronnie, if your face looked familiar but you didn't remember your name, it was always, "How you doing, big boy?" So the engineer for the Houston Astros walks in. I love it. Big Lowell. So Pat hasn't gotten there yet. Boltsy and I are just getting ready for the game, and Lowell wanders in to just say hello to Ronnie. "How you doing there, Ronnie? How you doing, big boy? You still coaching?" "No, Ronnie, I'm the engineer for the Astros." Oh, okay. All right. So he leaves. I think you had wandered in by that point and heard the conversation. So Pat starts giving it to him. "Ronnie, who did you think that was?" "I don't know. I thought it was Jeff Pentland." So Boltsy and I start reaching for a Dodgers media guy. He's the hitting coach of the Dodgers. We print it out. So Pat holds up the picture of Jeff Pentland next to the glass and Lowell's on the other side. He's like, yeah.
Ronnie's pregame shows were always a joy for me. I want to ask you guys this because the one I remember that I loved was with Antonio Alfonseca. You remember that one? For one thing, the Antonio part to Ronnie was never part of his name. His name was Al Fonseca. Hey Al, how you doing? He's interviewing him, and he says, and he got Al confused with somebody else. He says, "Al, you're pitching pretty well. That surgery you had on your shoulder doesn't seem to be bothering. You did have surgery, didn't you, Al?" Antonio Alfonseca says, "No." That was it. And Ronnie said, "Okay, well, thanks for joining us." Shortest interview in the history of the big league. But invariably, now I want to ask you guys, once or twice a week, Ron would come up after interviewing Lou Piniella or Dusty Baker or whomever, and there would be nothing on the recorder. It would be blank. Now, I always theorized Ronnie had these enormous fingers, and I always wondered how he was able to ever punch out a number on a cell phone, because one touch and he did 3 numbers with the size of those fingers. I'm sure that's why he was a great hitter, the control of the bat and everything, and a good fielder. But was that the issue there? Because he thought he was recording the interview with Lou or Don or Dusty, and then he would come up and there'd be nothing on the tape. What in the world happened to all those interviews?
That was it. It was the fingers. And it was a combination of not being able to see the little record light on the machine, because as Joe was telling you before, I mean, he would have to put the recorder right to his face. There was one time that he came up and he was so frustrated that it didn't work. And we're about 15 minutes from going on the air. And it was with Don Baylor. And he said, "Oh, it was the great, I had so much good, go back down there and interview him." Okay, now, if you've been to Wrigley Field, you understand there's no elevators there, and you're talking about walking down ramps, and you're talking about talking to a manager 15 minutes before he's getting ready to tell his troops to get out there and win a game. So I went down there like the youngster that I was at that point, listening to the chief there, Ron Santo, and Baylor saw I put my microphone into the door first, and like a little peace offering, saying it wasn't me, it was this thing that didn't work, and here I am trying to record this. He had this look on his face of, again? And if we had $1 for every time that happened, whether it being a manager show or the player, we'd be, fairly well off, I tell you. But I solved that problem, because Corey was asking me about this today, and we were at lunch today for our presentation here. And because now it's almost common practice that one of us would go down with them and record it. That was me. I was tired of it.
Sure.
I was saying, there are two moments in my broadcasting life where I've just lost it and I just can't stop laughing. I have to finish the segment, but I just cannot stop laughing. One of those moments happened in 2007, doing Cub Central pregame with Ron. That first segment, before the interview.